I have been thinking a lot lately about what my small city's downtown looks like. Downtown is a dream compared to the much more car-centric developments in the surrounding areas that were developed more recently. I consider the historical part to be much more walkable and built to human scale. But after reading Paved Paradise, How Parking Explains the World by Henry Grabar, I've been seeing my downtown through a new lens. I expect a lot of wasted parking and more car-dependent developments, but I never thought about how much space is taken up by empty parking lots downtown too. For that reason, I think it is even more tragic that there are so many beautiful historic buildings that are surrounded by empty parking lots that are never full. Today, I rode my bike to an old theater downtown that currently contains a museum of the history of my city. I was blown away by the pictures of what the downtown used to look like. There were restaurants, cafes, hardware stores, banks, bars, theaters, and so much more. But when I look at my downtown today, I can't help but feel like it's a shell of its former self. Only a handful of the historic buildings still stand, many of them not being used for any real purpose. The theater that hosts this small museum is sometimes used as a wedding venue, but it is normally closed off to the public. Luckily, the man watching over the museum for the day was kind enough to let me explore and get a better view of the theater. There's so much potential here. This building could be turned into a great restaurant and speakeasy. They could host local concerts and performances. It could be converted to screen movies, or it could be opened back up for the stage for local performances. There actually is a local theater group just a few hundred feet from my apartment that is raising money to expand their venue. I loved their performance when we went, but I had one criticism. Their venue is located on a 45-mile-per-hour road, and there were a few times during the show when I could actually hear loud cars and trucks rev by outside. This is just one example of what could be done to help revitalize the downtown area. There are dozens of buildings downtown that sit empty, and many more parking spaces that spend most of their time vacant too. I won't get too into the weeds of Paved Paradise. I recommend you read the book yourself, or if you want a quick introduction on why parking minimums are detrimental to cities, I recommend you watch videos from channels like Strong Towns or Climate Town. Their videos were great about detailing the ideas in the book. I won't rehash too much of Paved Paradise, but there was one passage that I found incredibly fascinating and wanted to discuss. Grabar writes, according to the U.S. Department of Energy, annual gas usage is much higher in sprawling cities than in their denser peers, even though most workers, just about everywhere, commute from one suburb to another. Take the country's 5 most crowded major cities. 2013 gas consumption was 110 gallons per person per year in New York City, 215 in San Francisco, 188 in Boston, 206 in Chicago, 168 in Philadelphia, well below the national average of 349 gallons a year. The figure was 434 in Charlotte, 520 in Dallas, 556 in Kansas City, 582 in Houston, and 687 in Orlando. This blew my mind. I immediately decided to multiply the numbers for Orlando by the price for gas in Orlando, Florida. Orlando's current average gas costs $3.65 per gallon. Times 687 comes out to $2,507.55. $2,500 every year just for gas. That's not even including what people pay for buying the car itself. Maintenance, insurance, road tolls, and other costs associated with car ownership. Those numbers are just averages though. I highly recommend everyone pay attention to how much they spend on their own transportation, and if you feel like sharing, go ahead and write down in the comments how much you spend annually on transportation. I actually find it really interesting to hear what other people have to say. Statistics like these make me value locations like my city's downtown. Living in an apartment closer to the places where my girlfriend and I can walk and bike instead of drive has saved us a lot on gas and wear and tear on our cars. I love my downtown, but I can see there is a lot of wasted potential with the amount of parking lots that sit empty 99% of the time. It would be amazing if our downtown used some of the spaces allocated to empty parking and instead developed that space into more useful things like affordable housing or more retail shops or parks or anything more useful than just sitting empty or storing private vehicles on public land. I've been trying to follow some local news stories concerning Milton, Florida, the city I currently live. On one hand, there's this incredible downtown community redevelopment plan that has been in the works for almost a decade now. It's been stalled a few times, but it seems like there are more serious efforts being put forth to make the goals of the redevelopment come to fruition. The plan is focused on 300 acres of the downtown commercial district and surrounding areas where I filmed most of the shots in this video. Some of their plans and goals look really nice for helping restore Milton's downtown. They propose some of the following: converting the vacant, unused county courthouse into an arts and culture center, restoring the Imogene Theater and surrounding areas to create a theater district, developing land into a marina for seasonal and transient boaters, extending the existing Riverwalk to link up with nearby parks, building mixed-use developments that focus on residential units with neighborhood stores, turning the downtown Main Street into a pedestrianized, shared street that primarily caters to people but allows some vehicular traffic. And that's just some of the ideas published in the redevelopment plan. Last I've read, the city is still looking for candidates to bring the plan to fruition. On the other hand, there are also talks going on about how Florida Department of Transportation is pushing to expand the main arterial road running through Milton. The road bottlenecks at the downtown where it turns into a 2-lane bridge that crosses the Blackwater River. In order to expand this section of the bridge, they would almost certainly have to demolish some of the historic buildings on the main street. Frankly, I just don't know how these two projects could coexist. You can't have a pedestrianized main street and a multi-lane highway running through your downtown at the same time. Most likely, only one of these projects will happen. I'm not going to be living in Milton much longer, but I will be curious to see what it looks like in 5, 10, or 20 years from now. Following these two stories has made me realize, though, which type of place I want to live in the future. Hint, it's not the one that decides to build a highway through its most vibrant neighborhood and literally pave paradise.